This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so the strength has been little down, not expected because we have agreed upon taking the break and then we have taken the break. Okay, so okay. So guys, let's have a quick recap as to what we have discussed in the last class. It's been a while. Okay, so let's quickly look into it as to what we have discussed in the last class, guys. So we have discussed about the if loop, if you have remembered correctly. Okay, so we have discussed about a little bit about the variables and all that, and finally went to the if loop. Okay, so if loop, we can have it in two ways: without interpret condition as a variable expression, with interpret condition as a variable expression. Okay, so this is one and this is two. Okay, so you can have any one of them, Okay, so I have demonstrated both of them. So what would you suggest for the better performance of Jmeter? Would you go with without option one, without interpret condition as a variable expression, option two with interpret condition as a variable? So what would you go with? Okay, so for a better performance, guys, option one or option two? You are not able to see the screen. Okay, so let me share the screen with you. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. Okay, so with the if loop, there are two things that we have discussed. Okay, so one is without interpret condition as a variable expression, wherein it compares the left hand side with the right hand side. Okay, so if they are equal, then it will process the condition. Okay, so it will compare the left hand side with the right hand side. So that is what the tool will do if you're not selecting this option. Okay, but if you're selecting this option, the whole expression, okay, it will evaluate, and the outcome, it will be able to tell you whether it is true or false. Okay, it will not compare the left hand side with the right hand side. It will evaluate the whole expression and outcome. If this is equal, then the outcome will be true. If this is not equal, the outcome will be false. So this is what it will do. So to do this, it will either use a groovy, you have to give it in a groovy. Okay, the expression you have to put it in a groovy or JEXL3. Okay, so one of these you have to put it this expression into one of these. Okay, and then you have to pass this expression, and the way it works is it will not compare the left hand side with the right hand side. It will evaluate the whole expression, and depending on it, it will give you an output of either true or false. Okay, this is with interpret condition as a variable expression. Which one Jmeter is recommending, option 1 or option 2? For better performance of Jmeter, okay, either you have to get option 1 or option 2, guys. I want to hear from all the 12 of them. Okay, okay, Narendra Abdisa says 2, 10 says 2. All of you, there are 12 of them in the class. Okay, Diva says 2. Yeah, Hago says 2. So that's what it is. Okay, so the 2 is the option. This is what you have to go with. Okay, for the better performance. Both will work fine. Okay, but you are running a test with a lot of users. Okay, then the performance of Jmeter itself comes into picture, and you have to do all the necessary things to make sure that Jmeter itself, okay, works fine. So for that, you just have to do these little things, very you have to do these little things correctly so that the Jmeter comes with an optimum performance. Okay, Jmeter works with optimum performance. Okay, so today, guys, we will talk enough of the loops now or the controllers. Okay, so we are done with all the controllers that we wanted to. So nobody will ask you how you abused if controller or something like that. They will give you a situation and they say that how do you handle that situation. Okay, so if you have learned these controllers well, then you would be able to talk about those situations. Now we will talk about the timers today. Okay, so the next 2 days we'll try to complete as much, try to wrap up these timers. Timers is more like think time, guys. Okay, timers is more like think time. Okay, so let's say there is a launch transaction, okay, and there is login transaction, and there is log of transaction. Okay, so between these transactions, what you expect is, okay, something time in between. Okay, something time. Okay, so between launch and login, you expect a little bit of think time. Okay, between login and again log off, you expect think time. Okay, whatever the time that is taken by the launch, okay, we call this as response times. Okay, so we call this as response times or transaction response times. Okay, then you would have a think time. Basically, this simulates what a real person takes time. I mean, in the real person, once he has done the launch, immediately he will not do a launch transaction, login transaction. He will take a little bit of time to understand the application as to what to do next and all that. So that time that is taken by the end user, that is what we call it as a think time. Okay, again, the login, it will take some little bit of time. Okay, so that is not taken by the end user, but that is taken by the server, so we call this as the response times. And once the login is done, okay, you will figure out what needs to be done next, so that will be again think time. And log off, again, there is the response times. Okay, are we clear with this one, guys? Okay, the time taken by the servers is the response times. The time taken by the human beings who is accessing this application is, that time is the think time. Between any two transactions, you would have a think time, and the time taken by the transaction itself, we call it as the response times. Okay, response times is the time taken by the network servers and all that. Think time is the time taken by the users. Can we increase or decrease the think time? No, it totally depends upon the human being who is actually accessing this application. If he's completely new to IT, completely new to computers, he will take more time. Or he's completely new to that application, he will take a little bit of time. Okay, so this think time, we cannot control it. Okay, so this think time, okay, I think this point everybody is clear with it, right? Everybody is clear with the think times, right, guys? Or do I have to explain more about the think time? I want to hear from all of you. We have discussed this think time multiple times in our class. Okay, so just wanted to give a heads up. Okay, so on the think time. So these think times can be achieved in Jmeter using something called timers. Okay, using something called timers. Okay, so there are different kinds of timers Jmeter is giving us. Okay, let's go through these timers. Let's try to understand as much as possible with the timers. Okay, so let me go back and start my PPT. Okay, so before getting into timers, okay, okay. So before getting into timers, guys, there is something that I want you to understand. This is very, very important, and it will be asked in the interview. Not directly, the question will not be posed directly, but they will try to pose the question in different ways. Okay, but watch very carefully as to what I am talking about here. Okay, you see, there is certain thing called hierarchy or order of component execution. Okay, so we have different kinds of components. Some of them we have seen so far, like samplers, we have seen timers, okay, and controllers. These are the three components that we have seen, okay, and listeners, we have seen that, right? There are different kinds of listeners. View results in the table, summary report, aggregate report. We have seen the listeners. So out of this, whatever we have seen, there are so many components that we have seen. There's some of them that we haven't seen, which is the pre-processor, post-processors, and assertions, which we will see. Post-processors we will see when we are talking about the what do you say, correlation. Assertions we will definitely see when we talk about the checkpoints. Preprocessors also I'll try to cover as much as possible. Okay. So there are different kinds of components like preprocessors, timers, samplers or controllers, post-process, assertions and listeners. Okay, so there is an order in which the Jmeter will execute these components. Okay, so you see execution order for sampler within the Jmeter thread. Okay, so this is the order in which the Jmeter will execute, and this is imperative and very important for you to understand this order of component execution. Okay, so first preprocessor will be executed, then timer will be executed, then sampler will be executed, then post processor, then assertion, then listeners. The same thing is put up here. You see under the thread group. Okay, the first the config elements. Okay, this is important. In this picture the config elements is missed. So first the config elements will be executed, then the preprocessor, then the timer. Okay, then the samplers or the logic controllers. You see this is samplers or the controllers, then the post processors, then the assertions, then listeners. I have added these two pictures because in this picture the config element and the logic controller is missing. So I didn't want it to make changes to this particular picture here. So I have put down these two pictures together so that you understand. Once you understand inside the thread group, you have all these elements. Okay, then Jmeter get confused which one to execute first. So first it will execute the config element, then the preprocessors, then the timers, then the logic controllers, then the post processors, then the assertions, then the listeners. Okay, so Kumar, I haven't understood anything that you have said. Okay, what is this order of execution? What is this order of component execution, or what is this hierarchy? I'm totally not understand. Don't worry about it, guys. So as we proceed further, I'll revisit this picture multiple times, and then I'll be able to explain this. But for now, just understand that if there are in a thread group, if you have all these components, okay, so Jmeter will execute in this order. Okay, Jmeter will execute the components in this order. Okay, you will get more clarity as we proceed further. May not be in this class or maybe in this class, depending on how much I'll cover. Okay, so for example, I have A plus B multiplied by C. Okay, so how would you evaluate this expression, guys? Okay, how would you evaluate this expression? Do you do A plus B first or B multiplied by C first? Option 1, A plus B. Option 2, B multiplied by C. Which one you will evaluate first? This addition or multiplication? Option 1, do you do A plus B or do you do B multiplied by C? Okay. Okay. So option 2, first you evaluate the multiplication, then you do it the plus. Okay. Wonderful. As Narendra said, there is something called BODMAS. Okay. So there's something called BODMAS. Okay. So whoever have done high school maths, they should be able, or good in the maths and done high school, you know this particular rule. First, whatever is there in the braces, okay, or bracket, you have to open that first, which means that whatever is there in the brackets, that's what first you should be evaluated. Okay, then BO stands for bracket open. Okay, then in that expression, then D stands for divide. Okay, then you divide it. Okay, then you multiply it, then addition, then subtraction. Okay, so as per this, A multiplied by B plus C is there. Okay, as per this rule, I have only multiplication and addition is there. So as per this rule, first multiplication should be done, then the addition. So first you will multiply it, then you add it. So A multiplied by T, whatever the results that you get, that you add it with the C. Okay, so if I have an expression that A divided by B multiplied by C addition by D, addition with D. So if this is the case, first you evaluate the division, and whatever the results that you get, you multiply it by that C, and whatever the final results that you get, you add it with D. Why? first division needs to be done, then multiplication needs to be done, then the addition needs to be done, then the subtraction needs to be done. Why? That's how the rules has been. So similarly, when they are developing the Jmeter, they have made it in your mind that they fix these things that first, first there is any config element that needs to be done. Config elements could be your cache managers, your cookie manager. There are so many config elements are there. So first that will be done. Then preprocessors, then timers, then logic controllers or samplers, preprocessors, post-processors, assertions, and listeners. This is how it should be followed. Okay, yes, you haven't understood much. Only if I give examples, you'll be able to understand more about this order of component execution, which I'll give you examples at the right time. Okay, at the right time. Right now, just need to understand that there is something called order of component executions. Jmeter will not execute in any haphazard way that it needs to be done. There is a particular order, there is a particular process in which it will be done. That's what you need to understand at this point of time. Okay. Now let's get into that. Let's get into the what do you say? Timers, guys. Okay. So first timer that I would want you to understand is the constant timer. The name suggests it is constant. Okay. The constant timer introduces a specific delay between the samplers in scopes are executed. The only configuration is the delay that is needed. Okay. So okay, so let me demonstrate this for you guys. Let me demonstrate this for you. Okay, so let me open up my Apache Jmeter. Okay, let me uncheck this one, enable this one. Okay, let me disable all the other things. So this is the same script that we have been working on, guys. Don't get overwhelmed. Okay, so you see this is the launch, this is the click login fish product ID checkout. Okay, then continue and log out. So here we have logged in, we have purchased the fish and we have logged out. This is the one. Okay, so I kept this as a backup, so now that I can use this backup. Okay, so I will disable all the other ones. Okay, everything is disabled now. Now you see, as I execute, first launch will be executed, then click login, fish, product, and all that. So in the launch, there is in the launch. This is the transaction controller, guys. In the launch, there is one sampler which is launch. In the click, there is one sampler which is click. Login, there are two samplers. Okay, so okay, then there is in the product you have one ID, then you have selecting the product ID, checking out. Okay, then you're continuing with the payment. Okay, and finally the logout part. There are two samples. Okay, now how can I explain this? Actually, I needed all this. I don't want the transaction controllers, to be honest. I need only the samplers. Okay, so let me do one more thing. Let me call this as a backup itself. Okay, so let me create one more simple controller here. Okay, and move all the samplers only, not move. I'll copy all the samplers. Okay, I don't want it to move because backup is there. So copy all the samplers into it one by one. Okay, launch is copied, click is copied. Okay, then login. Let me do a control and then try to copy. Okay, I can select multiple of them. I held the control button. Okay, I've selected all of them. Now I can copy inside this. Wonderful. Okay, so directly I have now the samplers. There is no controllers. Why there are no transaction controllers? So that I can explain this concept better. That's about it. Okay, let me disable this. Okay, now I have only the samplers directly. Okay, I have only the samplers directly, so I don't have the controllers. I didn't wanted the controllers for a particular reason. I'll tell you at the later point. Okay, Now you see guys, okay, now you see, watch carefully what I'm doing, okay. So this is whatever I've done, it is only to set up the script appropriately so that I can explain the timers correctly, okay. That's about it. So you see, as I record, this is what will be created for me. Once I record, this is the script that will be generated for me. Launch, then log in, then purchase the fish, and then the logout. That's what this script is, okay. Launch, then log in, then purchase the fish and log out. Here is the script for me. Okay. now watch carefully guys. I'll add a timer. Okay, I'll add a timer. Timer means think time. Okay, I'll add a timer. So the timer as appropriately has been added at the end, at the very end of the script. Okay, now the constant timer is added as the name suggests. Okay, so how much delay it is adding guys? How much delay it is adding? Can somebody unmute themselves and tell me how much delay it's adding? Okay, I'm hearing if you're speaking somebody. Okay, so be very attentive guys. How much delay it is adding? 300?
300 milliseconds.
So yes, this is what I want you to concentrate. Okay, now you tell me guys, 300 milliseconds is how much? Is it 0.3 seconds? Yeah, or
0.003.
okay, okay. So now you tell me guys, option 1 0.3 seconds, option 2 0.03 seconds, or option 3 0.003 seconds. How much it is? 300 milliseconds means. Yeah, yeah. So Diva, option 1 or 2 or 3. I want to hear from all of you. Just say 1, 2, 3. Which one? I'm surprised a lot of people are saying 3. Okay. 1000 milliseconds is what? 1 second. Okay. Now, if it was 3 milliseconds, then I would have agreed that it was 0.003 seconds. Okay. But this is 300 milliseconds. Okay. 300 milliseconds means 300 divided by 1000. How much it will be? How much it will be, guys? 0.3 seconds. 0.3 seconds. Okay. So 300 milliseconds is 0.3 seconds. Okay. If I wanted a 3 seconds, if I wanted a constant delay of 3 seconds, how much I should enter here? 3000. If I wanted a 10 seconds of delay, so I would have to enter 10,000. Okay. So let's give thousands, 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. Okay. Now tell me, guys, this constant timer which you have given 1000. Okay. So I'll say 1000 seconds delay. Okay. If somebody is looking at it, they need not even have to open. Just by looking at the header, they know that this is a delay and how much delay it is? 1000 seconds. And what is it? It is a constant time. Okay. Now I have named this appropriately. Now you tell me, guys, as per this order of execution that we have discussed, which one will be executed first? Timer will be executed first or sampler will be executed first? As per this order of component execution. Whatever is there in the thread group, if you watch carefully, in a thread group, if there is a timer and a sampler, which one will be executed in that thread group? Okay, timer will be executed first, then the sampler will be executed. Now, in this thread group, okay, in this thread group called purchase a product, okay, in this thread group called purchase a product, okay, I have two things now. I have sampler and I have a timer, okay. Option 1, okay, first constant timer will be executed, then launch will be executed. Option 2, launch will be executed and all the samplers will be executed, then the constant timer will be executed. Option 1 or option 2? Option 1, first the constant timer will be executed because the Jmeter is designed in such a way that in a thread group, in a controller, okay, if there is a sampler and a timer is there, timer needs to be executed first. So this constant timer will be executed and launch will be executed. Or this launch and all these samplers will be executed. Option 2 is all these samplers will be executed and constant timer. Option 1, first constant timer will be executed, then launch 1 will be executed. Option 1 or 2? 1. Okay. So why 1? Why 1? Because the Jmeter clearly telling that in a particular thread group, I have the sampler and the timer on the same level. Okay, so the way in which you put this constant timer doesn't matter. Okay, you put it after launch or before launch, it doesn't matter. The way it will pick up is first timers will be executed, then launch will be executed. How did you know? Just like a Bodmer's theory is there in mathematics, we have this theory in Jmeter saying that in a thread group I have all these elements. The order in which you put is doesn't matter. The order in which you put that particular components in that thread group doesn't matter. First the config element, then preprocessor, then timer, then sampler. So I have a timer and a sampler. So in Jmeter's mind, first constant timer will be executed, then launch one will be executed. This is the reason why. This is the reason why people put it appropriately, so that they will also be clear. Because now you put it like this, in your mind somehow you get the feeling that first this will be executed, then this will be executed, even though you know the order of execution. In your mind that might be there. Okay, so just to avoid that confusion between Jmeter and the human mind, some people have seen that they put it like this, so that in their mind also Jmeter first constant timer will be executed, then the launch will be executed. Okay, whether you put it over here or whether you put it over here, you put it over here, Jmeter will be executing the constant timer first, then the launch one. Okay, even though you put it over here. Okay, so all these samplers and the timers are in the same level. Okay, so Jmeter first executes the constant timer and then the launch. Okay, even though like if you put it like this, so it's better you put it like this, so that in your mind also it is clear that the first timer will be executed and then the launch one will be executed. And one more trick here, guys, and one more thing here. This constant timer is on which level? On the simple controller. Okay, so since it's there in the simple controller, this timer will be applicable to all the samplers, which means that first the constant timer will be executed, which is of what? 1 second. Then launch one will be executed. Then launch one will be executed. Then again the constant timer of 1 second will be executed. Then click 17. Then 1 second login. Then the timer log 19. Then the timer fish. Then the timer product 12. Like this, the constant timer will be executed between any two samplers. Between any two samplers. Because you have added this simple controller on this level, on this simple controller level, you have added the constant timer, so it will be applicable between any two samplers over here. You need not have to add one more sampler like this. You need not have to add one more sampler and put it like this. You need not have to add one more sampler and put it like this. Okay, it actually means once you have added it like this, it will be there before launch one, it will be executed. Between launch one and click 17, it will be executed. Between these two, this 1 second will be executed. And why? That's how the Jmeter is designed. That's how the Jmeter is designed. Between any two samplers, this 1 second is applied. Okay. Are we clear, guys? Are we clear? Are we clear? All of you? So the way it will be executed is 1 second, 1000 milliseconds is 1 second, and then launch one. Okay. Launch one. Then again 1 second. Even though you haven't added, that will be added. Okay, because you have added it on this level. Okay, then click 17. Okay, like this, it will keep adding as many samplers as possible. Okay, as many samplers are there, between those samplers, then 1 second of delay will be added. Okay, one second of delay will be added. Are we clear with this part, guys? Are we clear with this part? Oh, wonderful. Okay, so now I have a question, guys. I want, okay, the constant timer to be executed just about launch one. It should not be executed between this, before click 17, before log 18, before log 19, before fish 21. You don't want this constant timer to be executed. I want it to be executed before launch one. Before launch one. Now what do I do, guys? Any idea? Okay, then you just add this inside this particular sampler, so that now the constant timer is not on the sorry, I delete this one. So this is having some confusion. So, or let it be there. Okay. So now you see this constant timer is not on the simple controller level. It is inside this particular sampler. Okay, this constant timer is not inside the simple controller. It is what? It is what? It is inside the launch one. It is inside the launch one. So now again inside the launch one, again the order of execution comes into picture. HTTP header manager is what, guys? HTTP header manager is a config element. HTTP header manager is a config element. Kumar, how do you know it is a config element? Okay, if you have any doubts, right click on it, go to config elements, and you will be able to see a CSP dataset config, HTTP header manager, cookie manager. You see HTTP header manager is what? It is a config element. So as per this rule, config elements will be executed first. So what? First header manager will be executed. You see there is a conflict here. In launch one, there are different samples. So first header manager will be executed. Why? Because you said so. Then what? Then the timer will be executed. So 1000 milliseconds. This is not seconds. This is 1000 milliseconds. So I will say 1 second, guys. Okay, 1 second. Okay. So then this timer will be executed. Then after this is executed, then the controllers or the samplers needs to be executed. Then launch one will be executed. This is the order that will be executed within this particular sampler itself. Within this particular sampler, there are multiple controllers. So within this one, first the header manager, then the timer, then the sampler will be executed. And since you have added this header manager and constant timer inside this sampler, this manager, header manager and constant timer is applicable only to launch one. Okay, had I added this, okay, had I added this header manager and the sampler for this on this simple controller level, then these two components will be applicable to each and every sampler. But you don't want this to be applicable to each and every sampler. Then you just move it inside this launch one, so that these two are applicable only to this particular sampler. Are we clear with this one, guys? Are we clear with this one? Okay. Abdi sir, you wanted to go for lunch? Yeah, just the class will be done, sure. Okay, and then you can. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so wonderful, guys. Okay, so now, okay, now that we made the point, okay, that if you want the constant timer just for this launch one, you have to add it inside this particular. And this constant timer, okay, how many number of times you execute? Now I move it to the simple controller, guys. I move it into the simple controller level. Okay, how many times you execute? It will be just to 1 second delay, because it's a constant timer, and exactly 1 second will be added before launch, between launch 1 and click 17, 1 second, and between click and login 1 second. So exactly that constant delay will be added. Whatever the constant delay that you have added, that constant delay will be added between the samples. Okay. In the real world, the human beings between these transactions will exactly wait for 1 second, guys. All the human beings, when human beings, let's say, is doing this, he will exactly wait for 1 second, and then after launching, he will exactly wait for 1 second, and then they will go ahead and click it. Is that what the human beings will do? And after clicking on, exactly after 1 second, he will log in, and exactly after 1 second, he will click on fish. Exactly after 1 second, he will click on product ID. Will he do that, guys? He will wait for 1 second and say, oh, 1 second has happened, now I have to do something. He will do that. Or randomly he will say that, okay, as he does it, as he understands the application, randomly he will do transactions. So between any two transactions, okay, that think time will not be a constant delay, guys. Always it will vary. Sometimes between these two transactions he might take 2 seconds. Between these two transactions he might take only 0.5 seconds. Between these two transactions he might take even 5 seconds or 10 seconds. So it totally depends upon how much he is aware about the application, how much he is comfortable with the software, and what he might be doing. Maybe in between he went to bring a cup of tea, you never know. Okay, so or he might be talking to his friend and might be browsing. So many things will vary, and between any two transactions, it will not be same think time, and think time will change from person to person as well. So depicting or putting this constant timer, that's not what real people, performance testers will not put a constant timer between these two between, I mean, to simulate a think time, usually people don't put a constant timer in Jmeter. Okay, there are other timers that we can play around, and that's what people use. Okay, so constant timer will not be used, will not usually be used by the performance testers to simulate the think time. Okay, constant timers are not used. Okay, then Kumar, tell me what is this constant timer is used for. Typically constant timer, what I have seen most of the performance testers will use for pacing. Okay, you don't have a separate button for pacing, so whatever the pacing that you calculate, so that pacing will be, let's say the pacing that you calculate is 10 seconds. Okay, so after you've done the workload modeling with this Little's law, okay, you figured out that the pacing is what? 10 seconds. You figured out the pacing is 10 seconds. Okay, so pacing is what? Pacing is what? The time between, okay, two iterations, not between two transactions. Okay, so you have to simulate that pacing, so that pacing will be 10 seconds, which is 10,000 milliseconds will be added. So should I add it over here, guys? Or where do you think I should add it? Can somebody mute or am I doing it right? Let's say this is the pacing. Okay, you have decided that this is the pacing. Okay, pacing of 10 seconds. Okay, so pacing of 10 seconds delay. Okay, that you have added. Now you tell me, this is the pacing of 10 seconds. You have done the workload modeling, and the pacing that you calculated is 10 seconds. Now I am adding it over here. Is it correct, guys? Is it correct? I've added the pacing over here of 10 seconds. Is it correct? Okay, no. Okay, I will add it inside this launch transaction. Am I doing it correct? Just say yes or no. Okay, no. Wonderful. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll move it in at the end. Am I doing it correct? Tell me, am I doing it correct? Okay, so Noble and Hagos says yes. Diva says yes. Now you tell me. Okay, you have added at the fag end. Okay, at the end of the script. Now okay. Now you tell me what happens in this simple controller. There is launch. There is timer. As per the rule, which one will be executed first, the timer or the launch? Which one will be executed? The timer or the launch? The timer will be executed. Even though visually you have added at the end, Jmeter, what it will do? First it will execute this timer of pacing 10 seconds and execute the launch. Not only there, between any two samplers, this pacing of 10 seconds will be added, which is a huge problem. So now what I'm doing is I'm adding inside the last sampler. Is it correct? Is it correct? Just say yes or no. Yes. Narendra says yes. Others guess. I've added a time. Yes. Diva says yes. I want to hear from all of you guys. Yes. So you see now it first the purchase product simple controller starts, then it will execute all the samplers, and finally it executes the, after the whole script is done, it will execute the pacing. After the whole script is done, it will execute the pacing. This is what people will do. That's what I've seen people doing it. That's what I've seen people do it. But still, there is a problem here. What is the problem? Again, you apply the order of execution. First, the config element will be executed. Timer pacing of 10 seconds will be executed. Then the logout will be executed, which is a problem as well. After the whole script is done, it is executing the pacing, but just before the last transaction. So all this will be executed. Then the pacing will be executed. Then the last transaction. That is also not right, but this is what people do. Okay, but this is also not enough. This is also not appropriate, because what happening after pacing, the last transaction is getting executed. Why? Because that's what the order is, right? After the timer, then the sampler will be executed. So this is also, I've seen a lot of Jmeter experts do this, but this is also, to certain extent, it is not correct. To certain extent, it is not correct. Okay, are we clear, guys? Are we clear? Then Kumar, what is the ideal way of doing it? Okay, Watch carefully. Okay, so you add a sampler called flow control action. What is that you're adding? Okay, you add a sampler called flow control action. Flow control action is what? A sampler. Okay, inside this flow control action, you add this spacing. Inside this flow control action, you add this spacing. Now you tell me, flow control action is what? Flow control action is what? What is it, a sampler or a controller? It is a sampler. Okay, now I have this sampler, I have this sampler, two samplers. Which one will be executed first? Sorry, two samplers. Okay, so which one will be executed? Launch one or flow control action? Both are samplers only. Both are samplers only. Okay, now both are samplers. As per the order of execution, okay, samplers have the same level. I mean, all the samplers will be executed after timers, but this flow control action is a sampler. So this is also a sampler, this is also a sampler. Since this one is there before, first launch one will be executed, click one, and all this will be executed, then the flow control action will be executed. Because this is also a sampler, it is in the same level as the other samplers in the order of execution. So then it will go ahead with the order that you have added. So my Jmeter will execute all of them before they execute this, because this is also a sampler and it is on the same level as the other samplers. Since you have added it after all of them, so this will be executed at the fag end, and then you have the 10 minutes delay, 10 seconds delay that you have added, so it will add the 10 seconds delay. Okay, so this is, and in the flow control action, what you will do here, okay, what you will do, you will just say pause, you will give a pause of 0 milliseconds. You will give a pause of 0 milliseconds. So you need not have to give the time here, or you can give the time here as well, which will be a standard constant time. But I haven't seen people giving it over here. But some people, they give a pause as well. Here also you can give a 10,000 milliseconds, which will be 10 seconds. In that case, you don't need that constant timer at all. You can disable this or you can delete it. But I have seen all the performance testers or Jmeter experts, they do is they use the flow control action just to give the order. So they don't give any time here. Okay. So they'll just, inside this flow control action, they will add the constant timer of 10 seconds. This will be appropriate because now the logout will be completed and then the 10 seconds will be there. But if you put this constant timer inside this logout, what will happen? What is my order of execution telling? First this header will be executed, then this 10 seconds of pacing will be executed, then this sampler will be executed. That's not what we want. What we want is, first the sampler needs to be executed, then it has to wait for 10 seconds of pacing. So that's not what is happening here. That is the reason why what I would suggest is first add a flow control action. Inside that flow control action, you add this 10 seconds of pacing, and this flow control action is a dummy sampler which doesn't have anything. So you just add it and then you add the 10 seconds of pacing inside it. Or maybe logically, if you think, you can add a dummy sampler as well. Okay, inside that dummy sampler you can add this dummy sampler, as the name suggests, it will be dummy. It doesn't do anything except it runs 10 seconds, but I haven't seen anybody using this dummy sampler for this purpose. So the better thing to do is, flow control action is designed to 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 add this delays. The whole reason why you have the flow control action, they have given this flow control action, is to control the flows, to control the flow of of your execution. So that's the reason why they have given this flow control action. Inside this, people usually add the pacing. Okay, people usually add the pacing. Okay, now I'm telling you one important thing. Jmeter is also recommending us to use this way. Jmeter is also recommending us to use this way. Whenever you use the timers, okay, you add it inside the flow control action. You add it inside the flow control action and do it. Jmeter is recommending. Oh, Kumar, how do you know that the Jmeter is recommending? Okay, did you read any article? Okay, how do you know that Jmeter is recommending? Okay, don't worry guys, I'm going to demonstrate it for you. So whenever we start the script, typically all the performance testers, they start with what? Templates. Okay, they start with the template, and the best template that you use is recording. You go with the recording template, but you can also use the recording template with the think time. Recording template with the think time. Now you say create, see what is happening. Okay, see what is happening. Okay. Okay, maybe when you record, something gets added. Okay, so now you see guys, I'll go ahead and record it. I'll go ahead and record it. Okay, enable it. Okay, I'll quickly go ahead and record something guys. Okay, so first I have to set up the proxy for recording. Okay, so 8888. Okay, start recording. Hopefully the certificate and everything is still in place. Okay, so first launch, I'll record a simple launch login logout. Okay, launch, click on sign in, login, and then logout. Okay, logout. Stop. Okay, so now go ahead and look at the script that is got created. Oh no, the timers will be added. The timers will be added. Okay, fine, not an issue. Okay, not an issue. Now you see. Okay, oh, I've said okay while recording. Okay, just give me one moment, guys. Let me try another way. Okay, so usually the timers will be added while recording itself. If not, I have another way we can do it. Okay, transaction name, retrieve all the embedded resources, redirect. Okay, put them into do not group the samplers. Now start recording. Okay, so launch. Okay, so don't worry guys, if this doesn't work out, there is, I can demonstrate it in another way. Okay, so yeah, inside the sampler itself it is adding, if you see. Okay, so okay, the way the Jmeter, when you use it with the template, what it is doing is inside the sampler itself it is adding the timer. Okay, inside the sampler it is adding timer. This is also, we have seen, is the right approach. Okay, this is also is the right approach. We can add the timer inside the sampler itself. Okay, so this is what Jmeter is doing. Okay, if you go with the recording template, if you go with the recording template. Okay, so if you go with the recording with the think time. Okay, so what Jmeter is doing, it is doing one transaction. Inside the transaction it is adding the timers. It is adding the timers. This is fine, this is the fine, but what I told you is the flow control action is added. Inside the flow control action, the timers needs to be added. That's what I told you. We can go with this. You see, Jmeter itself is recommending us to go with this, like you add the timers inside the transaction itself. And which one will be added? Uniform random timer is added. What is this uniform random timer? Which I'll discuss shortly. Okay, which I'll discuss shortly. This is what Jmeter is recommending. Why? How do I know Jmeter is recommending? Because if I go with the template, if I go with the template, okay, recording with the think time, okay, then Jmeter is automatically adding the timer, and it is saying, certain milliseconds, which is 4 seconds. Okay, approximately 4 seconds of timer it is adding. Okay, 4 to 5 seconds it is adding. Okay, wonderful. Now, okay. So Kumar, why did you say that the Jmeter is recommending to add the flow control actions? I'll come to that point. Okay, shortly. Okay. So let me clear all this. Okay, or let me go ahead and open the random script. Yeah, the script. Okay. So now there is this simple controller. You see there is option called, okay, apply think times to the children. What is this? Okay, in this simple controller I have so many samplers. Eventually I have a flow control action as well that I have added just to add the pacing. Now you see, this is what I have seen a lot of Jmeter experts do. Once the recording is done, you just say add think times to the children, and you see what happened between these two samplers. The think time is added. How the think time is added? First they added the flow control action. Inside the flow control action, they have added the think time. Not the constant timer, but uniform random timer is added. I will talk about this uniform random timer shortly, but this is definitely constant timer will not be added. That is also we have discussed. Constant timer is used only for the pacing purposes. For the actual think time, uniform random timer will be added, which I will tell you shortly what it is. You see, now what did I do on the simple controller level? I simply said add think times to the children. Between these two samplers, the think time is added. But is this the direct think time? No. First, the flow control action is added, and the name they have given it as think time. And pause, how many seconds they are giving? 0 seconds. But inside this flow control action, they are adding the think time. They are adding the think time. They are adding the think time. Again, between these two samplers, they have added the flow control action. Inside the flow control action, they are adding the think time. Inside the flow control action, they are adding the think time. We discussed about the different kinds of timers. I'm using the word think time. Let's use the word timer itself. So they are adding the timer inside this flow control action. You are supposed to add the timers. If you directly add the timer, you know what happens. If you directly add the timer without this, if you add the timer, that is applicable to all the samplers. That is the reason why first they add the flow control action. Inside that, they will add the timer, whatever the timer that is. In this case, uniform random timer. And Jmeter is recommending us to use what? Uniform random timer, not the constant timer. Constant timer, you can add it only for the sampler. Only for the, only for the, where is the timer? Inside timers, okay? Only for the pacing, okay? Only for the pacing, you can add the constant timer of whatever it is, that too at the end of the script, that too at the end of the script. Okay, are we clear, guys? Are we clear? Are we clear, all of you? Are we clear, all of you? Okay, so while recording itself, you can have the timers added from the Jmeter. How do? You go with the template called recording with the think time. Automatically the think times are added. I wouldn't prefer that. I would be comfortable if I'm seeing the think time between these two samplers. I will be comfortable seeing this word called think time, so that I know that the think time is added between any two samplers. Between any two samplers, these two will be executed at once, because you see this is disabled. So this is the this request will flow, I mean redirect to this request, so you don't need a think time between these two. Okay, and you don't need a think time between these two, so let me delete it. So I'll be comfortable if this is done. So people usually what they do is, after the script is done, recorded, you can add the think time simply by right clicking and add the think time. And wherever there is a request which is redirect to next request. How do I know that this request is redirected to this request? Because this is disabled, so this will never be executed. So this will be redirected to this, and this will be redirected to this. You need not have to add the think time over there. Okay, while recording, it will take care of it. While recording, you go with the recording with the think time, it will take care of it. It will not add the think time here. Okay, so but you are adding the think time after, or you are adding the timer after the recording is done. Okay, you need to take care of that. Okay, and how you do it? You add the flow control action. Inside the flow control action, you can add the think time. Personally, this is what I do, guys. Personally, if you ask me, this is what I do it. Okay, and I feel that if you don't want it to handle these think times at all, while recording itself, you want it to be handled, then you simply go with this template called recording with the think time, so that automatically the think times will be added and you never have to deal with it. You never have to deal with it. Okay, so Jmeter is recommending to add the flow control action. Inside the flow control action, you add the times. How do I know it? Just right click on it and then add the think time. So automatically the think times are added, and you see what Jmeter is recommending automatically. Okay, but recording, you can go with this recording with the think time, so that automatically while recording itself, the think times will be added. Think times will be added. Okay, are we clear with all these concepts, guys? Okay, are we clear as to how it will be added, how it will be, how your script will be organized and all that? Okay, we have discussed only the constant timer. I do agree, but how to add. Okay, just right click and then say add think times to the children. Okay, are we clear with it, guys? All of you? Am I going fast, or are you able to understand, guys? All of you, I'm asking. Am I going fast, or are you guys able to understand this? Yeah? You're good? You're good? Okay. So, can I assume that you understood everything that has been discussed so far? Thank you guys. So let me take a quick short 5 minutes break. Okay. And then once I come back from the break, so a lot of exciting things are there. Actually, you will be, I mean, I'll be asking you some questions and let me see how many of you will answer. Okay, so just take a quick 5 minutes break, guys, not 10 minutes, and we come back. So we'll discuss about the other timers as well, and we discuss about the flow. Okay, more about the flow. Okay, and guys, can we have a class tomorrow? Can we have a class tomorrow? I want to ask for all of you. Can we have a class tomorrow, guys? Quickly. Same time. There is no changing in the time. Yeah, everybody is saying yes, so we'll go with it. Okay. Tomorrow we will have a class, half an hour delay, guys. Okay. Whatever is the regular timings, just to join. Okay. Half an hour delay. Okay. Just to join half an hour late. That's it. Okay. So every day, whatever the timings that you're joining in whichever time zones you have. Okay. Just to join half an hour late. Okay. Diva, I cannot. I wanted to take a better sleep on Sunday, but I cannot push further because the people in US it will be really late for them. Okay, already our 7 o'clock is I think 8:30 for them, so I don't wanted to push it any further, Diva. So we just joined half an hour late. Okay, so we'll take a 5 minutes break and we'll come back in 5 minutes, guys. Guys, are you able to hear me? Guys, can one of you please confirm if you're able to hear me? Knock knock. Okay. So before the break, Gautam and everybody, before the break, we are discussing about the timers. Okay. The best way to add the timers is inside the flow control action. Hang on, guys, one second. Hello. हाँ, नहीं रे. Sorry. Sorry, guys. So yeah. So before the break, I've been speaking about the flow control action. Okay. So the best way to add the timers is to create a flow control action, and inside that you add the timers. Okay. So that it is absolutely clear that between these two transactions you have to think that. Okay. If you directly add the timers, I've already shown you what happens. One timer you add, it will be applicable to all the samplers inside it. So visually, it doesn't make too much sense. So that's the reason why people usually use the flow control action to control the flow of your samplers. Inside the flow control action, you add the samplers. Okay, and constant timer is what we have discussed. Typically, it is used for more like a pacing than anything. Okay, honestly speaking, and that too you add it at the end of the script. End of the script, you add it the flow control action. Okay, with a constant timer. Now. So as I've told you, there are interesting things that I'm going to share it with you. Okay, so this is already we have discussed. Now you see, okay, so this rule number one, how the timer scopes will work. Rule number one, timers are executed before each sampler in their scope. Okay, so for example, as to what this statement actually means, let's try to understand. You see, timers are executed before each sampler in their scope. Okay, let's try to understand. Already I have explained about it, but let's try to go through the example and try to understand. Okay, you have a test plan. Inside that you have a thread group. Inside that you have a sampler, timer 1, sampler 2, sampler 3. Sampler 1, sampler 2, sampler 3. Here there is a timer. Okay, now you see this timer is there on the thread group level and all the 3 samplers are there on the thread group level. So this timer is applicable to each sampler. Timer is applicable to each sampler, and see how the flow will be executed and how the execution happens. You see, as per the order, timer needs to be executed before the sampler. So timer 1 is executed, okay, before the sampler 1. And not only that, this timer is applicable to, since the scope is there on the thread group level, this timer is applicable to all the samplers, which means that timer 1, sampler 1, timer 1, sampler 2, timer 1, sampler 3. So this timer is applicable to all the 3 samplers, and the timer will be executed first before the sampler. So you see timer 1, sampler 1, timer 1, sampler 2, timer 2, sampler. Okay. So even though the timer is added once, it will be executed 3 times because the scope is on the thread group level here, and then it is applicable to all the samplers. That's what you see. Timers are executed before each sampler in their scope. So as per this, as per the scope here, it will be executed for 3 of them. Are we clear with this one, guys? Are we clear? And this is the very reason why you add the flow control action and add the timer inside it, so that to avoid any confusion. Okay, to avoid any confusion. Okay, thanks Dejano. Okay, now you see what happens. This is the rule 2. Okay, if there is more than one timer in the scope, all timers will be processed before the sampler. Okay, so again, logically speaking, I need not have to put it as different rules and explain, but logically if you start thinking, this is what will happen. You see, there are 2 timers, timer 1 and timer 2. So as per the order of execution, first timers needs to be executed before the samplers. So timer 1 will be executed, then timer 2 executed, then sampler 1 will be executed. And again, this is the tricky part. You see, again timer 1 will be executed, timer 2 executed, then the sampler 2, then the sampler. Okay, are we clear, guys, with this one? Because these 2 timers are there on the thread group level, so both the timers will be executed for each sampler. For each sampler. Again, logically, if you think about it, this should not overwhelm you. This is not overwhelm you. Are we clear with this one, guys? Okay, first the timers will be executed, then sampler. Timer 1, the scope is both sampler 1, sampler 2. Timer 2, again the scope is both sampler 1 and sampler 2. So that's the reason why first both the timers, then sampler, both the timers and sampler. Okay, for both the timers, the scope is again there for both the samplers, for both the timers. Are we clear with this one, guys? Are we clear with this one? This is very tricky to understand. Not that it is very difficult, tricky to understand. So nobody will add these timers like this, but incorrectly what people think that, okay, between sampler 1 and sampler 2, I want the timer, and between sampler 2 and sampler 3, I want a timer too. They might add it this way. If they are adding it this way, this is totally incorrect. You have to add the flow control action. Inside the flow control action, you can add the timers, or you just add one timer on the thread group level so that it is applicable to all the samplers. So if you are adding it this way, this is how the actual execution will happen. Okay? This is just out of more than anything, just out of lack of knowledge, people might add it like this. But if they are adding it like this is how the execution actually happens. Okay? Now this is the okay. Now you see, if you wanted the execution in this adder, sampler 1, timer 2, sampler 2, timer 1, or maybe timer 1, sampler 2, timer 2. Let's say this is what you wanted. Okay. So what you wanted is sampler 1, don't assume this is timer 1, this is, let's say, timer 1 and this is timer 2. Okay, just I think I've done a small mistake in creating this picture. Sampler 1, timer 1, sampler 2, timer 2. Let's assume this is what we want. Okay, sampler 1, timer 1, sampler 2, timer 2. Let's assume this is what we want. So how do we achieve this? We already seen how to achieve this. Okay, just right click on it and add think times to the children. Okay, then the flow control action will be added, and inside the flow control action, okay, so you will have something like this. You see, sampler 1, then think time is the flow control action. Inside this flow control action, you add the timer. Sampler 2, again add the flow control action, and then timer 2. This is how we need to add so that we can achieve this. Which I have already shown you. That's the reason why quickly I'm covering it. Okay, quickly I'm covering it. And this is option 1. Option 2 also I've covered. Inside the samplers, you add the timers. Okay, add the timers on the sampler level, not on the thread group level. Inside the samplers, you can add it. So if you go with either option 1 or option 2, you can achieve this sampler timer. How? Add the flow control action. Inside the flow control action, you can add the think times, or inside the samplers itself, you can add it. So if you are recording with the template called recording with the think times, option 2 will be taken care of. Or you record, and after complete recording is done, you say add think times to the children. Option 1 will be done by the Jmeter. While recording itself, you record with the think times. Option 2 will be taken by the Jmeter. Okay. Or option 3 is add the random timer on the thread group level, and you have a sampler 1 and sampler 2. So you have a random timer sampler 1 and random timer sampler 2. But with this option, what is happening? There is a small problem with the option 3. What is that problem? First timer will be executed, then the sampler 1 will be executed. That is my problem. First sampler 1 should be executed, then the timer should be executed. That's how I wanted it to be actually in the real world. Okay, first sampler 1 needs to be added, needs to be executed, then the timer needs to be executed. So option 3 is very rarely used option because of this small issue that we have. What is that issue? First the timer is getting executed, then the sampler is getting executed. That is my problem. So that's the reason why option 3 is not the recommended option. You can go with option 2 wherein you add the timers inside the sampler, or you go with the option 1 wherein you add the flow control action with the timers inside the flow control action. Okay, so what is the options? This option 1, 2, 3 to have the sampler timer. Okay, if you want to achieve like this, you can go with any of these 3 options. Option 1, we're using the flow control action. Option 2, inside the sampler you have the timers, or option 3, you have only one timer on the thread group level, then you have the samplers. But option 3 is not recommended. Why? Because first the timer is getting executed, then the sampler. Okay, are we clear with this one, guys? All of you, are we clear with this one? All the 3 options? I've already told you, but I'm repeating all these 3 options again. Already discussed in detail, but I'm repeating all these 3 options. Guys, is it too much for you? Yeah. Should we stop here, guys, or is it too overwhelming? Or can I continue for 10 more minutes and cover what is this random timer? I want to hear from all of you guys. Okay, there is Gaussian random timer, there is uniform random timer. Okay, so these two are important. Throughput timer is not that important. Synchronizing timer is important. Okay, so should we cover all this today, guys, or should we postpone it to tomorrow? What do you say? This is very, very important. If you understand this, most of the Jmeter, you will understand this. Just this one slide. Okay, so what do you say? Tomorrow? Okay, Raghu says tomorrow. Continue. Gautam says continue. Continue. Okay. Sure, continue. Okay. What I will do is I'll just cover this only one slide, guys. So I've given you all the three options as to how you can add the timers. Okay. You can go ahead and use any of the options. There is nothing right, nothing wrong. But I have a problem with the option 3. What is the problem? As per the order of execution, first timer will be executed, sampler, then timer, sampler. So first, I want the sampler to be executed, then the timer needs to be executed. That's the reason why. Option 3 is not that preferable. Option 2, a lot of people have seen using it, or you go with the template called recording with the think time, or automatically Jmeter uses this option 2. Or after recording, if you wanted to go add the think times, you can just right click on the thread group and you say add think times to the children. So you Jmeter, the way it adds is first it will add the flow control action. Inside that it will add the timer, whichever the timer is. Okay, typically constant timer will not be used. Okay, so far only constant timer is discussed, guys. The other timers I'll discuss tomorrow. But today, before I wrap it up, there is a very, very interesting thing that I'm discussing. Pay attention. Pay attention. Okay, now you want more clarity on order of execution. I have given an example. Okay, I came up with an example. Watch carefully what is there in this test plan and understand this very, very carefully. Instead of me talking about it, pay attention as to what it is there, guys. Pay attention as to what it is there so that you understand clearly how the Jmeter executes it. Okay, what I have here, I have a test plan. Inside the test plan, I have only one thread group, not multiple thread groups. Thread group usually represents what, guys? Thread group usually represents what? Test scripts. Test plan usually represents what? Test scenario. Okay, you wanted to create a load test scenario or a soak test scenario. How can you create? Using the test plan. You want to create 10 scripts. How do you create? Using the thread groups. I have 10 scripts means I have 10 thread groups. Okay, now inside the thread group, let's see what I have. I have a constant timer. I have a bean shell preprocessor. So far, I haven't explained what is preprocessor. I haven't explained post-processor. But these are also components. Let's assume there's components are there. Okay. Later on, I'll explain what is a preprocessor, post-processor. But for now, just assume that these are there. What is it? I have a preprocessor and have a bean shell. Post-processor is there. Then I have a sampler. Okay. Whatever the sampler, BSF sampler, whatever the sampler. Let's say this is launch sampler or BSF sampler. Some sampler is there. Okay. Then I have a constant throughput, and what is this? Timer is there. Then I have an aggregate report. Aggregate report is what, guys? Aggregate report, is it a timer or is it a sampler or is it a listener? Option 1, aggregate report is a timer. Option 2, aggregate report is a sampler. Option 3, aggregate report is a listener. What is it, guys? Option. Okay, I have a listener. Okay, wonderful. So it is a listener. Then I have a transaction controller. Inside this transaction controller, I have an HTTP request. Inside this HTTP request, I have the CSV data config element. Okay, what is this CSV data config element? Let's try to see. We'll not try to understand, but what is this data under which you will get this CSV config element? CSV data set config is what? A config element. Okay, CSV dataset config is what? It is a config element. What component it is? It is a config element. Okay, wonderful, wonderful, understood. So this is a config element. Okay, now let's see how the whole thread will execute. Okay, first it will start execute whatever is there on the thread group level. It try to analyze that. What is there in the thread group level? Timers are there, pre-process is there, post-process is there, throughput timer is there, aggregate report is there, transaction control is there. Inside the transaction controller, there might be other things. Let's not worry about that. But first, let's worry about what's there on the thread group level. These are all the things which are there in the thread group level. Out of this, what will be executed first, guys? What will be executed first? Okay, don't watch this. Don't watch this. You can unmute yourself and speak. Okay, as per the order of execution. Okay, Okay, so as per the order of execution, okay, let me take that picture and put it somewhere. Hang on guys, 1 second. Okay, order of, let's look at the order of execution. Okay, or the hierarchy, order hierarchy, let's look at that. Okay, so let me copy this. Okay, let me put it in a paint. Okay, so that you are able to understand. Now let's look at this. Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, so for now let me delete this. Okay, now you tell me guys. Okay, so now you tell me, as for this, first config elements needs to be executed. Any config elements are there in this whole thing? Yes, there is a config element called CSV data set config. Okay, you see what is this data set config? CSV data set the CSV data set config is a config element. So config element is there. As per the as per the as per the process, first config element needs to be executed. But config element is there what? It is there inside the transaction controller. So it is not there on the thread group level. So definitely CSV data set config will not be executed. Why? Because it is not there on the thread group level. Has it been in the thread group level? First this CSV data set config would have been executed, but it is there inside the transaction controller. So this will not be executed first. Okay. Then what? Preprocessor should be there. Are there any preprocessors? Yes. So bean shell preprocessor will be executed first. Okay. So in this whole thing, what is the first thing which will be executed? Bean shell preprocessor. Okay, wonderful. So first, out of all these components, first this bean shell preprocessor will be executed. Wonderful. Okay, wonderful. Then what? Then the timers. Are there any other preprocessors are there? No, no other preprocessors are there. So then it will go ahead and then look at the order. Then what? Timers needs to be executed. Then let's try to understand which timer will be executed. First, the constant timer will be executed. There are two timers. How many timers are there? Two timers. Constant timer is there. Constant throughput timer is there. Both of them are on the same level. Since both of them are same level, this is occurring first. So constant timer will be executed. This is occurring first. So constant timer will be executed. Then what? Then what? After the constant timer, then what? Constant throughput timer will be executed. Okay? Throughput timer will be executed first. Wonderful. Okay? After that, constant throughput timer will be executed. Wonderful. Okay? Beautiful. So far, everything is going perfectly fine for us, guys. Okay? Preprocessors, then two timers. Out of these two timers, this is executed. This is there first, so it will be executed. Then this executed. Okay? Now, let's look at it. After timers, logic controllers or samplers. So both of them are on the same level. Samplers and the logic controllers. How many are there? I have one sampler, I have one controller. Both of them are on the same level. But since the sampler is there first BSF sampler will be executed. Okay, first BSF sampler will be executed. Okay, BSF sampler will be executed. Then the transaction controller will be executed. Okay, but transaction controller, there is nothing to execute. The transaction controller itself is a placeholder, so it will not execute something. But whatever is there in the transaction controller will be executed. This is just a placeholder, right? It is more like a folder, transaction controller. There is nothing to execute. The transaction controller itself doesn't have anything to execute. It is just a placeholder. What it is holding? It is holding an HTTP request and a CSV data config. So first the HTTP request needs to be executed, but as the HTTP request is being executed, it realizes that okay, it has a CSV data config set. So as per the rule, which one needs to be executed, HTTP data request or CSV data config set? Again, there is a conflict, which one needs to be executed. Again, it will go back to this order and it says first the config elements needs to be executed, then the sampler needs to be executed. This is the sampler, this is the config. This is the config element. So first the config element needs to be executed, then the sampler. So CSV data set will be executed. You see, transaction controller itself doesn't have anything to execute. It is just a placeholder. It is more like a folder. Okay, itself doesn't have anything to execute. So, but inside this, okay, inside this transaction controller, there are two things. What are the two things I have? I have the HTTP request and then the config element, CSV data set config. So HTTP, as it trying to execute the HTTP request, it realizes that it has a dataset config and this dataset config needs to be executed before this sampler. So first the CSV will be executed. CSV, what is this? Dataset config. Okay, then inside that, okay, inside that HTTP request is there, sorry, then HTTP request will be executed. HTTP request is a sampler. Okay, so the transaction controller is just a folder, nothing to execute there. Inside that, these two things are there, so these two things will be executed. So this, since there is nothing there to execute for the transaction controller, okay, I'm just putting it like this. Okay, so the transaction controller itself doesn't execute because it is just a placeholder. Inside that there are two things, so this will be executed and this will be executed, and by the end of this, the transaction controller is done. Okay, now these are done. Then as per the rule, what needs to be executed? Post processors should be executed. Are there any post processor? Yes, bean shell post processor. And are there multiple post processors? No, only one. So bean shell post processor will be executed. Okay, so just ignore the spelling mistakes, guys. Okay, just ignore the spelling mistakes. Post processor will be executed. Then as per the rule, then after the post process assertions, then listeners. Are there any assertions are there in this assignment? Yes, there are. Are there any assertions are there, guys? No assertions are there. Timers, pre-processor, post-process, BSF sampler, throughput, aggregate report. There are no assertions are there. Then I have the listeners. I have only one listener, which is the aggregate report. Finally, the aggregate report will be executed. Aggregate. Okay. So how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, all of them have been executed. Okay, all of them has been added. Okay, now you see, now compare this one with the whatever is there. First bean shell processor, then the constant timer, then the constant throughput timer, then the BSF sampler. BSF sampler is missing. Okay, here BSF sampler should be there. Okay, BSF sampler, why it is here? No, it has to be bold because the BSF sampler, okay, is before the controller. Okay, so BSF sampler, then the transaction controller. Inside the transaction controller, see this configure HTTP request is there. Then the bean shell post processor, then the aggregate report. Okay, so this is what it is. Are we clear with this one, guys? All of you. So if you understand this one, most of your issues while creating the script, you will be able to take care of it. Okay, are we clear? Absolutely clear with this process? Are we clear with this, guys, as to how the execution is happening? All of you guys, all of you, are we clear with this one? Or you need to watch this video again? Yeah, okay. Well, watch this video again, guys. Watch this video again. This is very, very important for you to understand this. Okay, very, very important for you to understand this. And okay, I'll give you one more case study. Let me see how many of you will understand this. Okay, now is this legible or is there a, let me see if I, is this legible, guys? Otherwise I'll try to zoom in. Is this legible as to whatever is there here? Is this legible, all of you? Yeah, are you able to see what's there in this thread group, guys? No, zoom in. Okay, I don't have an option to zoom, but what I can do is, okay, let me try to modify this. Okay, let me put it in a, okay, okay, now, okay, so let me zoom. Okay, so now you see I have a thread group and I have test plan thread group. Inside the thread group I have a transaction controller and everything is happening inside the transaction controller. Inside the transaction controller I have a timer one and I have a this is the sampler. Okay, what is the sampler? JR1. Okay, then inside the JR1 I have inner post processor one, then I have a timer 2, then I have a sampler, then inside the sampler I have an inner post processor 2, and then I have an outer post processor, then I have a view results tree which is there on the transaction level. Okay, so this transaction controller and view results tree, they are on the same level. How do I know it? You look at the line. You look at the line in the thread group. I have these two on the same level. What is this? Transaction controller and view results tree. They are on the same level. Inside the transaction controller, I have these two. Now you see these two are on the same level, transaction controller and view results tree. Out of these two, which one needs to be executed first, transaction controller or view results? You can unmute and you can tell me, guys. Okay, so which one needs to be executed as per the flow of controls? Okay, so order of component execution, this transaction controller should be executed first or view results tree. So transaction controller needs to be executed first. So let's go ahead and build this one carefully. Okay, so now you see first the transaction controller needs to be executed, but transaction controller is just a folder. There is nothing to execute, to be honest, but what is there inside the transaction controller will be executed. Okay, before executing the view results tree, what's there inside the transaction controller will be executed. What is there? I have some samplers, I have two samplers, I have two timers, and I have three post processors. Now you see, okay, on this level I have timers and I have the samplers. Forget about the inner post processors, because that is inside this HTTP. Inside these samplers I have inner post processor, processor 1, processor 2, you forget about it. Now I have these three things on the same level. I have these four components on the same level. What is this? Timer 1 JR1, timer 2 JR2, and outer post processor. So I have these 5 components on the same level. Timer 1 JR1, timer 2 JR2, outer post process. I have these 5 components on the same level. Okay, now this JR1 is a sampler, guys. So you see, out of these 3, which one needs to be executed first, guys? As per the order of execution, which one needs to be executed? Timer needs to be executed first, or sampler needs to be executed first, or post processor needs to be executed first? Okay, timer. Okay, wonderful. Timer needs to be executed first. So order how it will be: first timer 1 will be executed. Okay, then timer 2 needs to be executed as well. Okay, because the timers will be executed first. Okay, then I have what? Sampler JR1. Okay, JR1 will be executed. Okay, and once it realizes that JR1 needs to be executed, and whatever is there in the JR1, okay, hang on, let me see how the execution happens. Okay, so JR1, okay, so as per the second rule is the outer elements are executed before the okay, this is the rule 2, which is important, guys. Okay, outer elements are executed before the inner elements of the same type. Okay, so I have the same type post processor, I have same type inner post processor and outer post processors, they are of the same types. So outer will be executed first before inner. Okay, this is the rule. You see, outer elements are executed before the inner elements. So logically what people think is, yeah, the sampler is there, sampler gets executed, then whatever is there inside the sampler will be executed before executing the others. No, outer post processor will be executed. Okay, so outer post processor will be executed. Okay, why? Because the rule is outer elements or components will be executed first before the inner elements. Then the inner post processor. Okay, post processor. Okay, wonderful. Okay, then JR1 will be executed. Then again, watch carefully. Okay, what is there? Again, now timer 1, timer 2 will be executed, then JR2 will be executed. Okay, timer 1, okay, timer 2, okay, and then JR2 will be executed, and then outer post processor will be executed. Okay, then inner post processor. So 2. This is inner post processor. Okay, this is how it will be. For each sampler, all of them will be executed. You see, JR1 timers will be executed. Outer post processor will also be executed for both JR1 and JR2. First, timers will be executed. Timer 1, timer 2, JR1. JR1, after that, it has a confusion whether it has to execute this one or this one. So first this will be executed, then this will be executed. Now it is the turn for JR2. JR2 again, timer 1, timer 2. JR2 will be executed. Outer post processor, inner post processor. So this is how the execution happens. If you understand these two pictures, okay, these two orders with more clarity, okay, if you get the complete clarity as to how this is executing and how this is executing, you totally understand the flow of execution, or how the Jmeter is executing these elements or components, okay, how they are handling it, you will totally understand it, guys. Okay, go back and listen to this video, the last 10 minutes again and again, so that you get more clarity on how the execution happens. Okay, how the execution happens. Now you can, I mean, once these two pictures you are able to understand, right? You can kind of, you know, exactly looking at the test plan, what is happening in the test plan. Immediately you will be able to understand. Immediately you will be able to understand. Okay, with this I'll call it off today's class. Okay, tomorrow when we come back, you join half an hour late, guys. That's it, and then you know you will discuss about the Gaussian random timer, uniform random timer, and then get into the assertion. We are lagging behind, guys. Okay, so assertions we will try to wrap it up, and then we will on from Monday. Okay, we'll try to do the parameterization on Monday or Tuesday. We'll try to start the parameterization and correlation. The idea is by the end of this week we will complete the parameterization correlation, guys, so that we'll get into the execution part, how to design a load test, how to design a stress test. We'll try to figure it out, okay, by the starting of the next week. In 2 weeks we'll be wrapping up the class, guys. Okay, whoever is getting ready for the interviews, just in India it's 7:30 a.m. okay, in US again half an hour late, whatever the time is. Okay, wonderful, guys. So see you tomorrow at the same time. Okay. Again, if you don't understand, watch this video multiple times, especially the last 10 to 15 minutes. Watch multiple times before you join tomorrow. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining. You have any questions? Here is the time. Here is the time to ask. Any questions? Okay. No. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye bye.